Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in to Tanso Racing Group's GR86 series. Season 9, Round 3 brings us all the way to sunny old Kent in the Brands Hatch Racing Circuit. A circuit length of 3.89 kilometres, an altitude difference of 131 metres, and we are doing the Grand Prix circuit here as well. Some fantastic racing we've seen throughout this season, and no doubt we'll see some more here tonight as well, as these cars to look towards going again for what has been a fantastic setup this season. So before we jump into everything, let me just read you out some of the points from where things stand at the moment. Now, these points are live at the moment. I am aware that the broadcast is obviously delayed due to reasons that do fall on my behalf and is my fault. But the standings are currently live, and the live ones are as follows. Dan Wareham is currently leading the way on a total points of 310. Then Scott McFord just behind that on 259. 249 for Mark Brown, then 235 for Tom Blood. Then Jack Holland on 209. Raz Harper on 146. That is the pro standings going towards the AMs. There's a few more drivers in this category. Peter Duke leads the way on 327. Then we've got Scott Brown on 294. Michael Walters on 222. Adrian Hadfield on 219. Craig Corish on 214. 202 for Terry Atkinson. Then JT Johnson in 188. Then we've got 186 for Mr. Walters just in behind there, behind the boss man. And then we've got Stuart Briley on 185, so really not much between those guys whatsoever. And going a bit further down, we have Chris Moore 139, John Kenny matching him on 139, Sean Atkinson on 132, 123 for Jordan Hadfield, and Michael Elms on 99, with Vincent Vaught on lovely 38 there at the bottom. For the Pro-Am category, then, we have Dan Forster currently leading the way on 306. Lee Rylands 275, and then Shaw Webber 249. Still all to play for between those three there. Neil Kennedy just behind that on 207. Then we've got Peter Woodmore 194. 152 for Mark Proctor. Kevin Woodmore 125. 120 for Scott Kostrick. And Frederic in at P9 there overall for the Pro-Am category with 107 points. So they are the standings as it is at the moment. Now what we'll do is we will jump over to the action out on track, and the action actually lays with the boss man himself here, going around in his Tanso Racing Group livery, out for qualifying, very early doors as well. I say early doors, 4 minutes in. So cars have got lap times in by now. Sorry for the momentary silence there, ladies and gentlemen. We've conducted a sound check and we can confirm there is sound. Take it away, Mr. JT Johnson. Now, don't forget, this season, obviously, Season 9 is sponsored by Aqua Twist. And you can find their details in the Tanso Racing Group Discord. And if you have any other questions for the all the lovely fine gentlemen and ladies and everyone involved in the Tanso Racing Group, you can do so via their Discord. Obviously the links will be provided, and you can get in contact with the racers, and if you have any questions for them, feel free to ask away with some of your questions, and let us know what you think as well with the racing that you see at hand, which we'll be getting into here very, very shortly. Just under 5 minutes to go. And what we'll do is let's have a little look there at white flag this time round for JT Johnson. Now, what I was trying to say before is let's have a look at your leaders. So, as it stands at the minute, obviously Tom Bland, quickest lap time overall, 1:37, almost flat there. And then Sean Webber, P2 overall, but he's got the P1 in his class. Peter Duke, P9 overall, but he's got that P1 for the AMS there as well. Now, here's a thing to mention. Whilst Johnston is giving us some laps here around the Brands Hatch Racing circuit, the pros are highlighted in blue. The Pro AMs are yellow and the AMs are in red. So you will see the class colours on the left-hand sides there. And all the stripes do represent the driver classes. So you'll be easily able to identify who is fighting who via the colours on the left. And you will see there's one car that is green, and that is Mr. Johnson, and that is purely because the camera is currently focusing on that car. So you will see that change throughout the race, no doubt, where we jump to different battles as things progress here at the Brands Hatch circuit. Now we're getting into the last 3 minutes of the qualifying session here. Things are tight between all of these cars. There's a couple of tenths in it between a few of them, but the rest not even stretching as far as a tenth between them. This is one of those fantastic racing circuits from the UK, and something we are blessed with that's still in action at the moment, and probably will be in action for quite a long while going forward as well. But we're always grateful for the course being a part of the UK group, bringing us some fantastic racing throughout the season. Nevertheless, what we'll do is we'll bring you your grid in just a moment. We'll wait for that to load in, and once the grid has loaded in, we'll bring you your starting lineup. The GR86 is rear wheel driven, right? Yes, I believe that is rear wheel drive. So I say fairly easy to spin out because the back end does get very loose rather quickly, or so I've found when I've been driving it. It is a good car to drive though, good fun, and poses a challenge for some drivers, and a bit more of a challenge for those that don't think too much of the car. We're just waiting for the session to finish. I can tell you it's just under a minute now until the grid results are brought to us, as we wait for the cars to get on the grid and lined up ready for some more GR86 action. And no doubt this this session will be filled of action as well. It normally is around Brands Hatch. Prone to snap oversteer. I think I feel like the GR86 is prone to snap either over or understeer, to be honest. It just is one of them cars that can get a bit squirrely from time to time. And the session has now lapsed. Results are in. Grid will be brought to you in just a few seconds. Here it is on screen. Tom Bland leads the way with Sean Webber just in behind that. Jack Holland in P3, Mark Brown P4, Mark Proctor P5, Dan Warren P6, Scott McFall P7, Dan Forster P8, Peter Duke P9, Neil Kennedy P10. Then following on, Adrian Hadfield, Sean Atkinson, Lee Rylands, Scott Brown, Chris Moore, Craig Corish, Scott Kostrick, Terry Atkinson, Michael Elms, Michael Walters, Stuart Briley, John Johnston, Peter Woodmore, and Jordan Hadfield. Then John Kenny there at the back of the grid. Let's look towards your leader. Here he is out there waiting for all 5 red lights to get up and get us underway at the Brands Hatch race circuit in Kent once more. see these cars revving and really wanting to get underway here as soon as possible. We'll just wait for the few cars remaining to join us here on the grid. See, this will be the hillside that they'll all come into very, very shortly. This will be turn 1, and no doubt we'll be seeing some side-by-sides through there in the first lap of action. As all the cars are revving, revs are going up. Green flag is underway, and Barney gets us going. You can see some of the cars getting sideways very, very early on there. And here they come then into turn 1. Wait for it. Here comes your leader. Now taking the race by storm so far. As they all come flying through there in turn 1. Mark Brown making a early dash for P2, getting ahead of Sean Webber and planting that Simtek car right in front of him and not letting him by, or giving him any easy options for any overtakes, that is, as they come around onto the back straight now. If you don't know which car we are focusing on or talking about, you can catch a glimpse of the car in the bottom left corner. So you'll see next to Mark Brown's name, you have his car number, you have his nationality, and then you have the car in focus. So if you wish to keep up to date with the car that we're following, you can do so via that bottom left corner. Michael Elms and Stuart Briley at the minute taking the fight to each other. You have Michael Elms on the outside there, and unfortunately possibly conceding 2 or 3 positions. In fact, yeah, nearly all 3 cars got by him there. Michael Walters is the only person that didn't get by. Battle of the Michaels here towards the rear end of the grid. And we do have a few cars off. One of them is Scott Kostrick there, and same with Chris Moore, who unfortunately is off to one side. Now remember, there is no damage here, so these guys will get going again. So Scott Brown just behind him as well, now P25. Bit of work to do for those guys after an earlier incident just a moment ago, as we still see the 2 Michaels are actually pretty close together. See the orange and black livery just behind the rainbow fade is what I like to call it, of Michael Elms. Now, at the minute we have Peter Duke and Mark Brown fighting out. Mark Brown going around the outside, and Mark Brown has lost some positions since we were last with him. He was obviously fighting Sean Webber for that P2, and now he's fallen down the grid to P8. He's down 4 positions from where he once was. Where is the boss man? Here he is, looking towards fighting both Michaels as they come together right in front of him. And just as that happens, oh, he's got contact with one of the Michaels, but he manages to keep it on the circuit and still gets that position. But Scott Kostrick has taken the advantage and the initiative and has rolled straight by down towards the back straight, or on the back straight, sorry, towards the final half of the lap. And a monumental mistake for both of the Michaels there, which unfortunately did cost them quite a bit. Dan Wareham also having a little bit of a hiccup there. Remember, the damage isn't on, so Dan won't have to worry too much about any damage on his car. Sean Atkinson here in a lovely monster livery. I do like monster liveries, I have to admit. They always look nice with their bright green. But obviously that will stand out from miles away in this series. Heading down over the straight on the start-finish line. This man has put in the quickest lap time, Tom Bland. He is going mega fast at the moment. Then we have Sean Webber just in behind that as well. I can tell you that Tom Bland's lap time is a 1 minute 37.35, so he is absolutely flying around this circuit. At the minute, Mark Brown and Lee Rylands are currently close together. Mark Brown having to do a bit of a comeback drive almost, as Lee Rylands is actually getting quite close to the back of Mr. Forster there, and looking all throughout the field. Michael Walters here looking to get a move done on Stuart Briley. He's towards the outside going into the back half of the circuit now. He does have that quicker outside line, and look at the momentum advantage he has there. Gets his car right well around the GR86 of Mr. Stuart Briley there, who is on the inside. Does defend it and manage to do so quite well, as Michael Walters does take a couple of wheels off track there, which inevitably slowed him down and stopped him from gaining any positions. Now Peter Woodmore as well going for the defensive on a fellow green car, and that green car is Neil Kennedy, but just behind him you have Chris Moore as well. So battle of the greens. Yorkshire T is currently sitting at the back of the green battle as they head round towards the start finish straight once more. Neil Kennedy at the minute just with John Johnston, and Mr. Johnston has found himself in a green sandwich. A little bit of contact there between Neil Kennedy and Chris Moore, but neither car going off track because of it, so they're managing to carry on. Aqua Twist sponsored livery there for Mr. Johnston as well. Obviously something to note, and don't forget there is more than just one sponsor up there in that top corner as well. It's not just Aqua Twist. So that is one thing to take note as well. The Aqua Twist GR86 Tanso Racing Group and the TS livery designs there. You can see that in the top left, top right corner. Sorry. Jordan Hadfield, haven't spoken about you yet, sir, but nevertheless going for the move towards the outside line there with the I want to say Japanese styled livery towards the outside line. He gets the extra momentum. You can see the massive gains you make there as he gets right by Craig Corish and leaves him for dust in the distance, back with Scott Kostrick and Terry Atkinson in the Terry's Chocolate Orange livery vehicle for him. Just up ahead is your monster livery then of Sean Atkinson. He's still flying around this circuit, and a very nice grip on the exit there, heading into the braking zone on this left-hander 90-degree corner towards the finish line of what is been really a good first 6.5 minutes of this race, and good action this far. So you can see there is a bit of a gap now between Sean Atkinson and Jordan Hadfield. That is starting to extend itself out as Jordan Hadfield is under attack from Terry Atkinson. Not Terry Atkinson, sorry, Craig Corish. And Craig Corish has got the advantage and disappeared off into the distance. He done it quite well because he got the move done just before turn 1 and managed to get his car in a nice position, ready for any defence if needed going through that turn 1, but didn't need to do so in the end, and has enough space between him and Jordan Hadfield to maintain his position and his current course for clawing up the grid. Now, don't forget there is a top 6 reverse grid, and at Mid-Ohio, obviously that will be going back a little while now. Obviously the broadcast is a little delayed thanks to no one else but me. We did have a Dan Wareham seal out for P1 and Sean Webber P2, Scott Brown P3. Well, guess what? Sean Webber has kept the habit up and he's still in P2 currently. Looks like Dan Forster is having a bit of a handful at the moment with Mark Brown and Lee Rylands there, who you can see they were going side by side through that final corner. They're now all in single file, but nonetheless these two are going to take the fight to each other all the way through turn 1, 2 and 3. Unless there is a mistake between these three, it's going to be very, very close, and probably that close that you can only just fit a piece of paper between their cars as they come flying around here through turns 1 and 2, heading towards corner number 3 now, towards the back end of the circuit. I like to call it the back straight because it heads on to the back half of this track. The Indy circuit wouldn't normally go left. It would have, well, it'd have a slight left up the hill through the cones, which are on the right hand side of the course, There they are. It'll go through the right-hand side and round back on to start finish straight. But obviously we have the joys and the delight of the rear half of the Brands Hatch circuit. But these guys will be taking full advantage of that and trying to get their moves done, especially with the extra momentum down the back straight. Jordan Hadfield in amongst the battles once again. You see Scott Kostrick also there as well. Not much between those two. And JT Johnson is currently in a wall. As he's currently facing the wrong way without his bumper. Regains his bumper with the lovely action of Bluetooth. He's managed to Bluetooth that bumper straight back onto where it belongs. Who needs mechanics these days when you have Bluetooth bolts? Is what the big boss man John Johnson was saying. And whoa, Peter Woodmore. Wow, we switched to Scott Kostrick, and Peter Woodmore has literally gone flying across our screen like Superman and blending in with the grass as he goes off track heavily. Now sitting in P16, still up a good amount of positions from his starting grid position. Let's bring up the battle box. You can see how close or how far away these cars are to each other, and you can see the positions gained and lost there. So up 7 places for Peter Woodmore. So a fantastic race. Even though he did have that massive off track that we caught just a moment ago, he's still doing a wonderful job. And Jordan Hadfield is certainly a name to throw out there as well, as he's currently up 10 positions. So car number 17 there, doing a fantastic job. Can he put Terry under any kind of pressure whatsoever into turn 2? He doesn't do so. Can he get anywhere near on the exit? Doesn't look like it's still going to stay the same distance away as he was through turn 1. Now on to the rumble strips on the outside of the track, sticking towards the right hand side. He looks up the middle, but then slots right back in towards the right hand side once more. Out on the outside, goes for a late apex on to the back straight. Can he keep with the chocolate orange car? He does so indeed. Just in front of that is Terry Atkinson. Terry Atkinson being an AM driver, car number 82. And Jordan Hadfield is looking towards the inside. They are side by side going into that quick right-hander. And Terry does have that extra momentum around the outside line. Can he make use of it? They're still going to be side by side. Scott Kostrick wanted to get involved as well, trying to make it a 3-car wide battle. Doesn't do so. Actually pulls out and causes a bit more trouble for Terry Atkinson. As Scott Kostrick looks to get past, Terry Atkinson does so. Has his nose in front, has the inside line and the advantage. He's way in front now. And the mix of 3 has switched once again. Scott Kostrick now takes the middle, and it looks like we had John Kenny unfortunately facing the wrong way on the grass there, so he's hit the wall and spun around by the looks of things. As Scott Kostrick is now, he's lost a little bit of time to this man just in front, Jordan Hadfield, but nevertheless all time lost can still be gained again. There is still 8 minutes left to go for these guys to bunch up and try and get those attacks in before that black and white checker flag goes out. And you can see the amount of airtime Jordan Hadfield got. That's going to make for a fantastic photo at the end for any of those people that are into their photography. And obviously if we have any people with nice cameras in the crowd as well, that would have been a prime time to take a photo there. Neil Kennedy at the minute in a sandwich as well, and Stuart Briley just ahead of him. And just behind him is Michael Elms. Michael Elms is someone that's popped up a couple of times this race, in amongst the action all times it seems for Michael. As Neil Kennedy does look towards the inside, gets the inside line, and no sign of defence there from Stuart Briley at all. Sits on the back and almost looks for the cutback, but doesn't go for it in the end. Just sits right behind that GR86, probably using the maximum amount of draft at slipstream he can to slingshot himself in front. Is he going to go for a sudden dart up the inside line? That's going to be the right-hand side of the track. They're currently on the left. Go for the late apex through the quick right-hander turn. Neil Kennedy still P18, Stuart Briley P19. And then we have Michael Elms just in behind that P20, so that is the pack of 3 so far. These 3 all still close together. Neil Kennedy looks to break away just a little bit though. Stuart Briley has slowed up ever so slightly, bringing Michael Elms into the equation a little bit more now. So the fight is going to be on between these 2 rather than pulling Neil Kennedy back. And that's going to cause some issues for these guys if they want to try and get up the grid. You'll have a Neil Kennedy going off into the distance while you're battling each other out, and that's going to cost a lot of time and unfortunately not be very good for either driver. As we head up towards Mr. Mark Proctor. Mark Proctor now in amongst it in the podium spots, as just ahead of him, 0.4 of a second in front, is Jack Holland. Sorry, not Mark Proctor. Mark Proctor's who we're focusing on. That's bad from me. I should have looked in the bottom left to match up my cars. But yeah, Jack Holland just up ahead, and then Sean Webber just in front of that as well. So P2 and 3 within touching distance for Mark Proctor. This is how close it really is. And you can see how bumpy it is as well going around this circuit. These cars are absolutely flying around here. They look quicker than normal going around this circuit at the moment. Really no slowing down for Mark Proctor, who looks towards the left-hander right on the back end of Jack Holland's car. Can he get any moves done before the end of the race? Just over 5 minutes left to go. I don't think you need the wipers, Mark. You could probably turn them off and save a little bit of power on your car. He has done so indeed, as it comes towards the start-finish line once more. Heading towards turn 2. Or turn 1, sorry. There they go. So there is Sean Webber, Jack Holland and Mark Proctor. You see them coming down from the top corner of your screen. All still very close together indeed. Now this is Surtees. You can see a very wide exit there for Sean Webber, who's trying his best to keep into that P2 section. This is the long back straight of Brands Hatch. And there's your leader, Tom Bland. Coming around into the braking zone. Quick right-hander. Off he goes. Sean Webber doing the same, followed by Jack Holland and Mark Proctor. Now those two getting very close together indeed. Is Mark Proctor close enough to make a move? That will be the question. He's possibly not just yet, but someone who might be in just a moment is Dan Forster. Now Dan Forster in a sandwich himself. Simtech car behind him, but Lee Ryland's just in front. Lee Ryland's being a tricky driver to overtake, and just as we pulled away, Mark Proctor has got himself up, and I think Jack Holland has actually had an issue. Mark Brown possibly about to capitalise on this as well, as Jack Holland looks to get up to speed. Mark Brown going to get close enough to him. I don't think he will. Not just yet, anyway. Still a moment or two of waiting for him. But Mark Proctor did get himself up into that podium spot, so he's now P3 overall. See Dan Wareham here on the back of a triple threat battle going on. P8 overall for Dan Wareham. Bring up your track map there on the right hand side of your screens. That will show you how spaced out these cars are now. P1, 2 and 3 almost equidistant as they come through onto the back end of this circuit. Dan Forster and Lee Ryland's about to make battle, and this could be a battle for the ages into the last couple of minutes here. This is all on the line now. Lee Ryland's having that magical position, that P6, that will get him that provisional pole for race 2. Can he keep it? He does so indeed. The car disappears for a split second. That is just a common case of netcode. It's just where the connection of the car to me basically drops and I can't see him. This is Dan Wareham, a very, very fast driver indeed. Very fast, very consistent. Trying to take this battle and take advantage, getting into that P6, that reverse grid P1. He gets himself in front around the outside into turn 1. Lee Ryland's had to put the brakes on there, gone into a drift basically through turn 1. Really wide on the exit, and that's going to slow him down big time. And he's lost 2 positions all within the space of 1 corner. That's not good for Lee Ryland's whatsoever. That's really going to curse him when it comes to that reverse grid P1. That could really give him the advantage and possibly some major points in race 2, but has he just seen the end of those points? Has he just made the job 10 times more difficult for himself? I think so, as Terry Atkinson does go up the inside line into turn 2, number 82 there against number 17 of Jordan Hadfield, and Hadfield looks towards the inside, doesn't go for it in the end. Distraction tactics there for the Japanese livery. Looks towards the inside once again. This time he is side by side, as he does have that inside line all to himself now. Terry's got to go towards the outside. He does so. Gives plenty of room between the two drivers, and that now brings Neil Kennedy into the mix right in behind Terry. And is he going to form any sort of defence against that steaming green car that's coming flying through at the moment? There's your leader at the moment. I thought possibly on the final lap there, but isn't on the final lap. Jordan Hadfield has dropped back quite a bit. Jordan Hadfield has actually gained 8 positions in this race. So he's done the opposite. He's gone up quite a bit from where he was to start with. Unfortunately, Neil Kennedy, on the other hand, has gone down a considerable amount. Down 7 spots from his starting grid position. Craig Corish at the moment chasing this car that is on screen now, Adrian Hadfield, P10 overall. Can Craig get himself within that P10 and secure those extra few points? Just behind, there's not much in it. If he keeps that composure through this left-hander onto the back straight, it's all game for him to get that position done. Looks towards the outside as Mr. Hadfield does take the inside defensive line. Does very well in doing so indeed. Look towards your leader then, who is now coming across. And this will be his view as he comes to the start-finish straight. No doubt we should see a flag of Barney's there, and we certainly do. And he spun it there right on the finish line. Cross catching the black and white flag. He does manage to get that position indeed. P7, Dan Forster, unfortunately missing out on that reverse grid. That does fall to Dan Wareham. Now Craig Corish on the outside line. P10 against Adrian Hadfield. Can he get in front of him? Or can he stick in front of him? Sorry, he does so by all of... Wow, okay, there was not much in that at all. I think that was all of 1/10 of a second between the two cars as they come across the line there. Scott Kostrick also across the line. Let's have a look at the boss man then. P21, JT Johnston, also with his wipers going. I'm assuming these people have set their wipers to automatic. That's why they are going off. As we wait for Mr. Johnson to get across that start-finish straight. There he goes. That's lovely stuff from everyone involved there. Quality. And let's bring you your results then from Heat 1. They are as follows. Tom Bland does start P1, finish P1, and... a massive result for him. Sean Webber copies what happened the round prior to this and finishes P2. Then we've got Mark Proctor in P3, Jack Holland in P4, Mark Brown P5, Dan Warren P6. We've got Mr. Forster P7, Lee Rollins P8, Peter Duke P9, Craig Corish P10, Adrian Hadfield P11, Sean Atkinson P12, Peter Woodmore P13, Scott Brown P14, Scott Kostrick P15, Jordan Hadfield P16, Neil Kennedy P17 as the grid rolls through once more, P18 for Terry Atkinson. Then we've got Michael Elms P19, rounding off your top 20 with Michael Walters, John Johnston in P21, then we have Stuart Briley P22, John Kenny in P23, Chris Moore P24, and who is that at the bottom? That is the question. we'll be able to work it out. Unfortunately, it does cut people's names off. That will be... I will find it. Scott McFall, that's who it was. There we go, so Scott McFall rounding off your grid there towards the end. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to switch over screens just momentarily and we'll be straight back with more action because we don't have to wait the 5 minutes as this is not currently live on the circuit. So we'll be back with you in just a moment. So we have race 2 coming up for you here in just a moment's time. And we'll bring you your grid there here for that in just 1 second. And here it is. Tom Bland is not leading the way, so these will be... Okay, that's interesting. The grid will be reversed. So what we'll do is we'll wait for the cars to get out there on circuit, and I'll bring you the lineup that way. Gotta love when these things do work. Yes, Dan Wareham leading the way. Then it should be Dan Wareham, Mark Proctor, Mark Brown, Jack Hollands, Sean Webber, Tom Bland, I believe. In fact, there's a jump start there in the background. And we're off underway. Wow, the cars really do get a drift on at the start. So it is Dan Wareham that does lead the way. Mark Brown in P2 and Jack Holland P3. So those I was right with at the moment. As we'll look back towards this area. And Tom Bland at the minute straight getting into the podium, into P3 instantly through turn 1. And making away from the pack already. As these guys do come flying through here. Through the Druids corner. The Graham Hill bend. Here they all go flying through as normal. These things sound absolutely incredible when they're side by side going over the rumble strips all at the same time. There is a spin there for Sean Webber. Unfortunately, he is round. He's hit the wall. Luckily, he's hit it with the rear end. He can get going quite quickly. Now, do remember, we have an extra 5 minutes here, folks. So, extra 5 minutes of racing. Extra 5 minutes for these cars to do their work. But we've already had 1 minute of that extra 5. So, doesn't sound like a lot when you look at it that way. Mark Brown currently sitting in P2, 4/10 behind your leader, but where the battle is currently is with Peter Duke at the minute, who's in this nice sandwich of cars. Scott Kostrick just in behind in P12. You know, Sean Atkinson in that monster livery just in behind that as well. Craig Corish into the pit lane. Michael Elms doing the same as well. I won't be able to tell you exactly why they've come into the pit lane because I won't know off the top of my head. If we do get any word, we'll bring that to you as soon as we possibly can. Now we do have a little bit of action happening up top with Dan Forster. Dan Forster currently up 3 positions. Lee Ryland's up a grand total of 7 somehow. Peter Woodmore up 16. I think these are a little all over the place because I'm pretty sure those guys weren't that far back on the grid. You can see how close and how far away the gaps are on the left hand side of your screen. So the amber colour indicates when the cars are getting a lot closer to each other. The yellow is a little bit further away, and when they're white that means they are nowhere near each other, and there's quite a bit of breathing room between the cars, as one of the closest battles at the moment was between P1 and P2. Tom Blanc did get really close for a second there, within 1/10, but unfortunately not that close anymore. Sean Webber, on the other hand, is that close and does get the move done on the inside of JT Johnson round turn 1. Always an ugly place to overtake, nevertheless still a good one if you get the move done. Tom Bland unfortunately out of the session by the looks of it, so we're down to top 20. This has now turned into an F1 race. 20 cars on the grid at the moment. Peter Woodmore going a little bit defensive there against Jack Holland, who did look towards the inside, doesn't go for the move in the end. Lee Ryland's off the circuit there in the background. He concedes 2 positions. Now, how many cars are going to swallow up Mr. Rylands? That is the question, as you do see Adrian Hadfield going around there very quickly, and same with Peter Duke, who in the white and orange livery has done the same. Scott Kostrick looks towards the inside. Can he get that momentum round and side by side enough? He does. He manages to keep that car locked in on the inside. Has he still got it, the nose up there? He does just about. No, that's it. Lee Rylands does have the momentum to get his car in front. I think Scott did have a little bit of a pull out moment there, and it's probably the safest thing to do, as this is one of the fastest parts of the circuit. So definitely the right decision from Scott Kostrick there indeed. So there's your monster livery of Sean Atkinson battling out with Scott Brown, who do have contact on the start-finish straight, and Scott Brown does have the inside line, does get his car in front of that Monster Energy livery. Question is, can he stay in front of the 86? He does so. You can see the back end going out just a little bit through turn 1, a little bit of a drift, not too much, as Sean Atkinson looks to take the advantage up the inside line, does so on turn 2. Now, can Neil Kennedy also get himself involved and pick up any loose scraps from this battle unveiling itself in front of him? This is like a present at Christmas, this is for Neil Kennedy, as he might be able to take the advantage and possibly even get 2 positions in one move here if he plays his cards correctly. You've got to keep your cards close to your chest though, because you never know. One of these could make or break your future with this round or this heat, as up the back straight now. Neil Kennedy right on the back end there of Scott Brown, and Scott Brown not too far off of Mr. Atkinson, just ahead of that. Now, can Neil Kennedy close that gap just a little bit more and try and put the pressure on to Scott Brown in the Tanso Racing Group livery there? He does look towards the inside. He does stick his nose at the inside there, well and truly side by side through the left-hander. He doesn't carry as much exit speed though on that corner as Scott Brown, who does manage to get his car back in front, and they are once more single file here again, as Terry Atkinson gets swallowed up on the inside by Sean Webber. Sean Webber almost losing his car there on the outside line. A little too much momentum for what was needed on that overtake there. That extra 5 minutes has now gone, and we're already 2 minutes into the normal 20. Sean Webber just taking it nice and easy, not having too many cars around him, so not having to worry too much about any oncoming pressure. Now, speaking of pressure, got a little bit of a queue behind you there, Mr. Hadfield, and that's starting off with this man here, Peter Duke, in the white and orange car there. Scott Kostrick just in the background, looking to go up the inside of Lee Rylands. I think that's just trying to build up the nerves for Lee Rylands in that GR86. Trying to make him go a little bit defensive, force him into a defensive move, and then go for the counter and switch back up on him. But Scott doesn't go for that in the end. Carries on about his normal route and routine. Two cars going side by side there. That was Adrian Hadfield and Peter Duke going side by side into that final turn. They come up the home straight. P7 for Mr. Hadfield as Mr. Duke looks towards the inside line. Does stick on the inside. Well and truly in front of Hadfield's car now. And unfortunately there is contact between the two. They come together during turn 1 and unfortunately Peter Duke spun into the wall. Luckily that Bluetooth connection swung that spoiler back onto the car. And he spins himself back around and very close there for John Johnston, and same with Craig Corish as well. And it looks like the other Hadfield, Jordan Hadfield, is going to take advantage of this situation. He does so indeed and moves through up into P17 now, and he's instantly going to be put back under pressure from Duke, who is going to look to get back up that field and back to where he belongs, fighting for that P7, but there's a long way to go yet, and not a ton of time left. Just over 15 minutes of this racing session of Brands Hatch to get back to where you once were, dear sir. It's down the back straight. They are staying fairly distant apart. Not incredible amounts between them. 3/10 is all that splits. And it does keep fluctuating between 4 and 2/10 of a second between these races as they come through corner by corner as the laps roll through. There we go. Scott Brown and Sean Atkinson taking the battle side by side. Contact, exchanging paintwork on the doors there. Same with the Hadfield of Adrian in the background. Scott Brown on the inside line there of turn 1. You can see he gets two wheels up on the rumble strips, bumps his car up, but keeps his position and has no issues at all sitting in front there. And Adrian Hadfield P13 now, so he's dropped back just by a few after that incident a moment ago as we approach the 10-minute mark. We've just gone that now. Nearer the 11th minute, actually, if I do my maths correctly and actually read it out properly. Peter Duke does get the move done into P17 on Jordan Hadfield. Now can Hadfield stay with him and see if Duke can pull him along, getting closer to those cars in front of Craig Corish and John Johnson, who look to go side by side up the back straight. John Johnson has given so much respect there through the corner. Plenty of space for Craig Corish to try and get some kind of battle going. He does so indeed. He takes that invite and almost throws it back in the face of JT Johnson as they now go side by side up the back straight now. Inside line for Mr. Johnson, but he does go a little lighter on the accelerator through that turn as Craig Corish does take advantage. Uses that extra momentum and speed and carries it through, does the number 13 into P15 overall. So wonderful work for him. Peter Woodmore up here at the moment then, 2:89, heading towards the start finish straight just behind Jack Holland. Mike Brown done a 1:37.211, so a very quick time indeed as he gets two wheels up in the air, showing off the belly of that car to the crowd as he goes round turns 1, 2, and now heading down towards number 3. Dan Wareham does lead the way in this race. See, he's just up ahead of Mark Brown, not too far whatsoever. But 1.3 seconds is all that splits the two. Sounds like a lot, but trust me, that gets closed down rather quickly. As we see Sean Atkinson trying to take the battle to Mr. Kennedy, and there's a spin there in the background for Scott Brown, and he managed to stop himself before he hit the wall. Fantastic work there for the 58. Waits for the cars to pass by, looking for a safe rejoin to the circuit, gets the speed up on the grass, and carries on his momentum forward. JT Johnson and Peter Duke still fighting it out then indeed, as we see smoke just up ahead. Who has gone off? Who has had an accident? Looks like no one, as we have Terry and Craig Corish fighting out. That Terry's chocolate orange car on the right hand side of your screen is the number 82. Number 13 on the right hand side of your screen now is well, on the outside line, in fact. Number 13 does get the overtake done, moves up into P13. There you go. So car number is the position, as he takes full advantage of that extra momentum. And does Peter Duke do the same thing? No, the 77 can't get the advantage over the 55 of Mr. Johnston, the big boss man himself. Now that would be a overtake and a half to make on the man that runs the joint. So can he get that job done? That is a question. Smoke in the distance, and there he is, Terry's chocolate orange, off into the gravel and the grass. He tries to pick up the speed before Jordan Hadfield catches him. We've seen Jordan Hadfield swallow up cars for fun over these races when he's capitalised on any mistakes. You see Peter Duke now taking the battle side by side to Mr. Johnston, still side by side on the brakes all the way through, trail braking through turn 1 for Peter Duke, as he still has the inside line advantage into turn 2. You can see Jordan Hadfield also looking towards the move of Terry there, but doesn't go for it in the end. Now sits single file. Peter Duke now does sit in front of this pack of cars in P14 at the moment. Can Scott Brown get himself involved as he sees he sees Jordan Hadfield in front of him, taking the fight to Terry. That's going to slow both cars down and possibly bring him into the mix and make this a 3-car battle. It's probably not going to be long until we see that either. It's probably going to be any moment now. We're going to see these two guys really slow each other down, because this is the fast segment of the track, and if they go side by side here, that's really going to impede on their lap times and bring some of the other cars into play as well from behind. That's going to help close their times down as we look towards the final 10 minutes of this race. So that is how quickly it does fly by. As Scott Brown looked towards the outside line, nothing there. Door is closed by Jordan Hadfield. And now looks towards the inside, does Mr. Brown, and again doesn't go for the move, but I think he's just making sure Jordan knows that he's there. Showing up in every mirror possible. And there goes John Johnston and Terry fighting it out, but Johnson basically let them by, as we see Jordan Hadfield and Terry almost going side by side into turn 1. They are corner to corner. Now Jordan does look for the switchback. He does get it indeed. Now looking towards the inside line of turn 2. Up the inside of Terry's car there, number 82 on the outside. Round towards the left-hand side of the track. He now looks for the cutback, but that's going to put him on the outside line again. And Jordan Hadfield is going to have the defensive advantage here, and he is in fact flying. Just as I say that, he's actually caught a bit of the grass there, so that's going to slow him down ever so slightly, but probably not enough for Terry to be looking for a move, as 4 tenths, now 5, make it 6, split the two cars, as it's now 7 tenths between the two up the back straight. Scott Brown hasn't got the job done on JT Johnston yet. Still work to be done for Mr. Brown. P18 overall. Looks towards the inside, doesn't get that move sorted there. As we look towards your leaders, and this is Dan Wareham and Mark Brown fighting it out. 10th between those two, as turn 1 they were really close together. Both cars almost coming to a complete stop there on turn 2, and Dan Wareham, Mark Brown almost having to come together as well on the exit of turn 2, and are they going to have a coming together in turn 3 almost once again. Nothing between the two cars whatsoever. Mark Proctor now being brought into the mix as well. And Mark Proctor on the outside line there. Can he get around Mark Brown, who's currently sitting in that second spot? He can't do so on that corner, but there's still plenty of corners to get the move done and push up on that podium spot. Dan Forster and Jack Holland have switched positions. Dan Forster P5 overall. Jack Holland moving up into P4. So look back towards Mr. Dan Wareham, who is 2 tenths between him and Mark Brown in P2, and then we've got 3 tenths between Mark Brown and Mark Proctor. So battle of the marks really for P2 at the moment. But also, and more importantly, battle for the lead is currently on at the moment. No, there really is nothing between these guys whatsoever. As Dan Wareham and Mark Brown both still really close together. You can tell the difference between the wheels of the car, the bright blue of Dan Wareham, and here is the more gold coloured wheels for Mark Brown. Lee Ryland's on the outside line then. Can he get that job done on Peter Woodmore? Doesn't look like he's going to do so. Going to have to settle in single file once more. Scott Brown just in the background there as well, waiting to capitalise on any mistakes from these two in front as they come round towards the back straight. As we are about to breach the 19th minute of 25. 6 minutes left to go for these racers to get their jobs done and push up, if they can, for Jack Holland onto that podium spot. But that is going to be a easier said than done kind of job, as Peter Woodmore and Lee Ryland still battling out. Sean Webber has got in front of Scott Kostrick there. Got the boss man JT Johnson still in amongst it with Scott Brown. 2 tenths between those two cars there. Still the fight for your lead is on. It's not going to drop, and I don't think it's going to drop unless one of these two make a mistake, and it's going to be inevitable that they will make a mistake if they race this closely together until the end of the session. Just as I say that, Sean Webber is getting in amongst it as well, as he's currently sitting P8 and looking to hunt down that P7-6 as well. Obviously P6 is Peter Woodmore. Can he get in front of that green machine there? It looks towards the inside line. Doesn't have his nose quite up alongside, so that door is closed right on his nose, in fact, by Mr. Lee Rylands, who does put some space between the two people. Just as I say that, Lee Rylands does go off, so it seems to be a commentator's curse for me today. I seem to bring the curse to everyone that I say is doing a good job or has a good exit. I don't seem to bring anyone any luck whatsoever. Well, that is the joys of being a commentator, I guess, as Neil Kennedy looks to get onto the back of Scott Kostrick and seal his way into that top 10. Four minutes left to go in this race. Not long left, and it's still all to play for within that top 10. After that, things have more or less settled. Just over a second gap between a couple of the cars though, so there could still be action in it amongst those guys as well. That is the battle for the AMS, as Mark Brown and Mark Proctor are switching positions here into turn 1. You can see Mark Proctor is in P3 at the moment with that orange livery. Mark Brown on the outside line, looking to go defensive into turn 2. Does so, almost sends his car into a drift as he goes round turn 2 there at the top of the hill. Heading down towards the back straight. Wide exit there for Mr. Proctor. Does he gain any kind of advantage? Doesn't look like it. Still going to stay the same distance between him and Mark Brown. As you can see, his car's now getting a bit squirrely on the back end and going into a drift onto the back straight. That's not going to help his momentum, because now all the way down the straight, Mark Brown is going to get away. And look at that time going up. 9 tenths between Mark Brown and Dan Wareham, and 8 tenths between Mark Proctor and Mark Brown. So that really did cost Mr. Proctor there by quite some margin, as well as Peter Woodmore does look to go up the inside line here of Sean Webber. Can he get his nose corner to corner at least if better, side by side. Oh, there's almost contact between the two, it looks like. But there's plenty of space between them now as they come through the corner. Through that quick right-hander, and oh, is that a down worm out? No, I think the car just disappeared. Down worm is still out there in play at the moment. Final 2 minutes coming up for your leader as he crosses the line now. The battle between P6 and P10 is incredible. They are all so close together. Nothing really between them. There is a little gap, however, between P7 of Peter Woodmore and P8 of Lee Rylands. Here is that gap then. There is Lee Rylands there in the background. You see Scott Kostrick having a little bit of issue. A little bit of an issue there, sorry. Moving down to P10. Just as he moves down to P10, the GR86 of Peter Woodmore sounds like an A10 shooting. So yeah, that was a lovely sound to listen to. Let's look towards your leader, who was there and taken the white flag this time around. So this is your final lap. Now there is 0.6 of a second between him and Mark Brown. The question is, can Mark Brown get on to that top step of the podium? Can he get that top spot and secure what would be a fantastic race victory? Sean Atkinson at the moment P12, just moved up from P13 thanks to Peter Duke. As they come around and take the white flag this time by. Lee Rylands in amongst it as well. Scott Kostrick on the outside. Can Lee Rylands get around the inside? He does so. He doesn't really have any speed going through that corner, but he does have that mathematical advantage over the shortest track distance by taking that optimal line, which is right on the inside. Now look, 2/10 is all that splits the top two cars then. This really is going to come down to the wire as they're on the back end of the circuit. Now up to 3/10, so just as I've opened my mouth, it has all changed once again. 3.43 of Mark Brown, just behind the 3.73 of Dan Wareham. Cars changing all over the place, so Sean Atkinson looks to try and take advantage over Peter Duke. Can he get that job done? It doesn't look like he's going to do so. He's going to settle single file into the quick half of the circuit. Back to your leaders then, round onto the start-finish straight for the final time this evening. You can see taking the checkered flag on your screen will be Dan Wareham, closely followed by Mark Brown. And then just behind that is Mark Proctor. So they are your podium sitters as we look back here towards Jack Holland and Dan Forster. And here comes Sean Webber up the home straight, P6. And we'll just wait for the rest of the cars to come across the line to finish off what has been a fantastic race really for Brands Hatch, as it always is, and filled with action. Filled with ups and downs for all of these drivers as they come around to complete their races. Once again, we'll settle with this man, JT Johnston, to finish off the evening. Don't forget, this is Season 9. This is Round 3. The broadcast has been delayed from when it was actually raced due to some reasons on my behalf, so I apologise about that to each and every one of you watching and all the races out there as well that were taking part. The one coming up this week will be streamed live, so looking forward to seeing you all out there once again, live action, and bringing us some great racing as always. Don't forget, this season is sponsored by the Aqua Twist as well. So Aqua Twist, Tanso Racing Group, Season 9 of the GR86 series. A fantastic series at that as well. Always bringing us some top quality racing, and no doubt will continue to do so for a long, long time. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson, for completing your lap. We are going to bring you your results here in just a moment. So your results for the feature race then are as follows. Dan Wareham finishes at P1, Mark Brown P2, Mark Proctor P3, Jack Holland P4, Dan Forster P5, Sean Webber P6, Neil Kennedy P7, got Lee Rylands P8, Scott Kostrick P9, Adrian Hadfield P10, Peter Duke P11, Sean Atkinson P12, Scott Brown P13, Terry Atkinson P14, Peter Woodmore P15, Michael Walters P16, Craig Corish in at P17. As we scroll through the grid, here are the others then. Jordan Hadfield P18, John Johnson P19, Stuart Briley rounds off your top 20, Tom Bland P21, Michael Elms P22, John Kenny P23, Chris Moore P24, and then we have Scott McFall in P25 there overall. So what a fantastic night of racing, as I've said already, and yeah, overall good quality display from all the racers out there. Obviously, we won't have any interviews because this is not live, so the racers aren't with me currently. But don't worry, the up-to-date one this week coming up will be streamed live for you, so we'll have interviews then as well. But thank you very much for everyone who joined us here this evening, and we look forward to bringing you your next round on Saturday, which will be another catch-up round. That'll be round 4, but then round 5 will be streamed live on the Sunday at normal time. But thank you very much from me, and as always, we'll see you again very soon. Stay safe, have a good practice, and we'll catch you all very, very shortly.